G'day and welcome to the Grow a Small Business Podcast. I'm your host, Trewin. Each week, we speak with an owner who has grown a business with 5 to 30 team members to something bigger. Diving into their numbers and unearthing the pain they've experienced, we explore what they did to overcome each barrier and what they would do differently from day one. Let's get into it. Welcome, everyone. Today I'm interviewing Julie Perkins from Wyseminds. She's based just out of Amsterdam in the Netherlands. Thanks for your time today, Julie.
Well, thank you very, very much for having me, Troy. I look forward to it.
Let's start with how we know each other. Thomas from Kitcaster put us in touch, thought you might be a great guest for us.
Yep, I hope I can fulfill that for sure. And obviously I've listened to a few of them all, and I hope I've got something to say towards your audience for sure.
We'll tell our audience a bit about your business, what it does and how it makes money.
Well, I opened up a business that supports female entrepreneurs to grow their businesses. And I had this incredible career. And I think there's very few people in life that can say that it went very smoothly and they loved every moment of it. But I'm one of those. And I opened up Specsavers in the Netherlands and Northern Europe for 20 years. And after a while, as you're growing, I found myself at this pitch event. And there were 5 amazing women on the stage pitching away their businesses, their viable businesses, and one person won. And I thought to myself, what happens to the other 4 people's dreams? So that was my sort of core to start a company that grabbed these guys and thought, can I learn from my 20 years experience of growing a brand from scratch in Northern Europe and put it into a shorter program where I can support female entrepreneurs so that no one loses their dream and keep these great ideas alive in the community. So that's where Wyseminds started, and that's how it began. And it's been going for now 3 years, and of course, pivoting and growing like mad, but it's a lot of fun for sure. So that's how I started, really.
So you would have started just after COVID hit the world, I guess.
Yes. Well, funny enough, COVID, I started just before COVID, about 4 months. And as I was about to launch, and we had this great idea that we were going to get this magical team, go into people's companies and say, here's the team that you'll be able to afford in 2 years' time, and then grow the business that way. Then COVID arrived. And of course, the world shut down. So I put a message out there and I said, listen, I grow businesses. Anyone need any help growing theirs or surviving during this period of time? And I had 5 people go, yes, please. And then it was this prime opportunity to trial this program under extreme conditions. And also for me, I realized how much I loved doing it. And so it's gone from strength there. So that was my sort of bit for COVID, really, because no one could go out. So that's what I did. And so, yes, COVID in a way helped me to really pivot before I'd started. That probably doesn't even make sense, but you know what I mean.
Yeah. And so that means obviously you started with an online model, delivering the education and support online. When COVID kind of settled down a bit, did you then add in any in-person stuff, or everything's just always been online?
Well, I do a mixture of both. I mean, that's the thing with small businesses. I think we realized that the founder is very time scarce, and having this program online very much works in with their pattern of work, and using Zoom, of course. But now I'm putting a lot of the course actually into online training modules so they can work on it in their own time. And I think sort of going with the pattern of that very much helps. But any opportunity, I love a face-to-face. And if people are in the Netherlands, I will meet them face-to-face, and in the UK. But the majority of it is trying to dance with their time schedules, either in the evening and the day. And of course, Zoom just works perfectly for that. So it's blended, I think, is the best description.
Yeah, great. Online training and courses have obviously grown hugely, particularly after COVID. But I had Mark Ritson on, who's a marketing professor for 25 years. He's British and now lives here in Tasmania, just south of Hobart, where I live. He was episode 200. It was a cracking interview. I might send that one through to listen to. But he moved away from lecturing because his first child was being born and didn't want to be on the road 6 months of the year. And he says, it's really interesting in the cast, he says he didn't think teaching online was going to be as impactful or powerful as in person, because he taught a lot in marketing, a lot of MBA, so London Business School, MIT, Melbourne Business School. But he found the opposite, because particularly for MBAs, you're working a 40-hour week, you've got a family at home, but the MBA asks you to come in on a Saturday and Sunday and sit in that classroom. It's really hard to concentrate and get the most out of it. So he's been really surprised. In this year, 2023, he'll have 8,000 students through his 2 online courses.
Yeah, I think it very much fits in with the pattern of life and how we can integrate ongoing learning, which is so key now, especially in entrepreneurship and small businesses. How you've got a spare 10 minutes, how you've got a spare sort of 20 minutes, 30 minutes. You want to be able to dip in and out. And that was an interesting feedback as well from the program, is, you don't always need consultancy at your designated time. So we actually inbuilt something where you can request a guide and then go in, so you can dip in and out of that as well, a bit like a joker card, where you can play it and bring it in according to your need. And we're all different. And I think that pattern is something we've very much learned, how to balance person, online, and that sort of self-learning approach. And it's been a really interesting journey to discover all what works. But you think about it, you've got to be in the mood for learning. You've got to be in that right, that time. But you also have to program it. So I suppose it's a mixture of both, really.
Yeah. So in 2020, when you launched the business, how old were you when you started Wyseminds?
I was just after 50,
right.
After career. So it was a beautiful way of moving into a new era as well. Yeah. So,
and do you have some key numbers you can share to illustrate the growth of the business over the last 3 years?
Well, when we first started, of course, it was just myself, but I came from big corporate, so I knew exactly who I needed to surround myself with. And of course, you can't always afford that right at the beginning. So I started off by really surrounding myself with people who were not part-time, but sort of freelance, getting the right skills around me. So we moved very quickly into probably what was the equivalent of 4 full-time people in varying forms. And I think that sort of ecosystem that we built right at the beginning gave us the opportunity to have a team that we would have had in corporate world at 2 years. But the skills, that way, we had more of like a project growth team as the team, which worked very well. And of course, as we've evolved, that team has become more firmer as part of Wyseminds on an ongoing basis. That's great for small businesses, because you can work out what you need, who you need, and really unite with values. That was the key thing. Our team was strong with values rather than contracts of employment. And then, of course, we've evolved to make a core team now, which is solid 4 people full time, really, as well as an outskirt of people who do, obviously social media, as well as people that you can draw in, so that your people in the company are as relevant as possible. So yeah, long answer, 4 full time.
That's good. And when was the moment you felt like you had succeeded?
Well, I believe, as I teach all the entrepreneurs, that growth is a series of waves. So every time I get on and off a wave, I think it's a sort of a milestone. I think after COVID, having saved 5 businesses in various forms, and was a big milestone, where I just thought, actually, what you've learned through corporate life, this incredible journey I had, really does have value to other people who haven't had that exposure. That was a big success moment for me, where I thought, yep, this is viable, where you're getting that reaction from it. And that was really very interesting. And that chance to trial the tools that you use, and people go, oh my goodness, that makes sense. I get that. I think that was a big milestone. But really, straight after COVID, when 5 businesses still existed, I mean, warm feeling, a lot of ego feeling for me. But on the whole, that's what I set out to do. And that was a big success. So I knew it could go somewhere.
Yep. And what does success look like to you?
For for me, obviously I've got a 3-year vision, not a 3-year plan, a 3-year vision of change that I want to make. And that's something that I strive for every day, and get the people, inspire that to that vision. That's a big thing that we believe at Wyseminds. And that is to ensure that female entrepreneurs grow their businesses in a seamless way. And it's simpler than they think. So we have a united way of celebrating with all of the people, because not everyone works with us every day, that we celebrate every great story of an entrepreneur, whether they want to share it or not. And our mantra is to keep great ideas alive in the community. So we're very much on a celebratory, on purpose focus. That would be if we are keeping those ideas alive, the good ones, and entrepreneurs are celebrating success, getting out of no man's land. That's how I see success. I don't mind if it's 5, 10, 500 across the world. It's just that celebration of that story that's really what success is in the future.
Number one thing you'd recommend to marketing a fast-growing business?
It has to go straight into strong network for me. I think social media, especially in consultancy, is tough. It's hard. You can talk about stories, and it's got a place to play for positioning you. But the biggest advice for me is how to associate yourself with others in the industry by making a very specific niche out of yourself. Who are you? What do you believe? And how do you position? Because the strength of how people get to know about you and what you do comes from others and how they promote you. And they have to be clear. So you have to position yourself in this beautiful niche, and be very clear about what you do and who you fit into, who you support. I'm very clear. I'll take people who knock on the door of a venture capitalist and say, no, thank you. That's my customer. I'm very clear. And also, I pass people on to other people. So it's this network is very strong, but only if you associate yourself with people who share values, and that you are very clear with the change that you want to make and how you dance with others. And I think that was my greatest learning, was the power of the network. And that comes from your customers as well. They're part of our network. And we started an alumni for graduates very early on. So actually, customer one, they got known as a graduate, an alumni, and we celebrated their success. And that is the greatest marketing tool you can have. But we take our network very, very seriously and invest in it, and cherish it, really, and celebrate it.
How did you fund the business?
I was self-funding at the beginning because, as I said, I've come out of a great career. And this was something that I very much wanted to do. So I was self-funded, and now I've starting to put my program online. That was a new wave, and that was funded in terms of a loan into it to get that one done. But that was a very important part, from going from I like doing this, hobby, etc., into I am now a viable, serious business traveling through. And this is going through these waves of growth. So it's a very important milestone to get this working through. Very important.
If you were to start up today with plenty of funding, would you go into your industry?
Oh, yeah, without a doubt. When I first started helping, other entrepreneurs, I realized that even though I've had a great career, passing on that information and helping others and uplifting others is just what I simply love doing. The fact that a lot of people haven't had the exposure I've had or the experience that I've had, it makes this 20 years of hard graft really worthwhile. I know it's success for Specsavers, and that's been wonderful. That was something. But when I took that success and passed it on to others, the feeling is priceless. It really is. I go straight back into it. The people we meet, I know it's a cookie cutter statement, but it makes you look at the world differently, because once you understand people's stories and how you can make that story really matter, you look at communities in a different way and look at people and know that there is really good things going on, and how much small businesses, form the backbone of many societies. And just to be a part of keeping that strong is just, look, I'm even smiling telling you the story. It's just such a genuine good feel factor. It really is.
Well, yeah, as you would know, Julie, small businesses in all developed nations anyway generate the preponderance of jobs, more than 50% of the jobs in that country. So it's something like 60 to 70% of jobs. The rest are government and big business or medium-sized business, but most of the jobs in developed nations are in small business.
Yeah, and I think there's such a beautiful opportunity after COVID, because we often talk about one of the biggest challenges for small businesses is the right people on board and when to take them on. And there's such an opportunity for small businesses to grab great people, because in COVID, we questioned a lot about what we were doing, why we were working close to home. We questioned a massive amount. And this is such a big opportunity for small businesses if they can get their communications right and inspire the change that they're making and the difference that they make. It's very appealing to get the right people to come and join. And I think that's one of the beautiful things about small businesses in communities, and wherever the community is, town, country, it makes such a positive impact. And I think that's a really important factor when looking to recruit nowadays. And I think it's a big advantage for small businesses if they can communicate, their vision and inspire people to join. It's magnetic.
Yeah. Can you outline the most stressful point in your small business growth journey so our audience can learn from it?
Yeah, I think right at the beginning, I think I'm going to go to Specsavers, perhaps looking at this one. And of course, it's a big brand. But when we were opening in the Netherlands, it was small. You're only as big as the people who know you where you are. So it was very small. And I think that was the origin of the story that I'm in now. Is I was at 3 a.m., sat in this garden, and everything was right. And it was supposed to be growing fast. And I was sat there, hands in the air, going, what more can I do? And I think that pressure of starting up a business, being the founder, and in this case, I was the founder in the Netherlands, and the pressure that's on you, it makes you hold on to things so very tight. And you can get caught up in this whirlwind, this hamster wheel so easily without realizing. And you can get stuck, and the business starts to grow around you. And I think my biggest pressure point was when those walls were at its thickest and you didn't even realize you'd got yourself into that founder's trap. And how you get out of it, in terms of understanding, of course, I was surrounded by great people, and I said, what more can I do? And they said to me the greatest piece of advice that I've ever heard, which was make yourself redundant, of which I was horrified at the time. But what they were saying is make yourself redundant from the position you are now. And really, that's been the sort of the journey that I took with Specsavers out here, to every 6 months, make yourself redundant, put yourself back in, make yourself redundant, because that space for a founder of a small business is priceless. And if we can keep that space between ourselves and our business by continually looking in, it's the healthiest way of growing a business. And it gives space for you to live, to be your true self, but space for others, these amazing people that you attract, to really contribute towards the journey. And I think that was the hardest thing I learned, was how easy it is to get trapped. And how, I mean, for the great people that I was surrounded with who had the honest conversation, going, you're holding on to everything, and how you take yourself out of that. And I do it with all entrepreneurs now. It's a big issue where it's on waves. At the beginning, no one loves the child like you do, and you hold on tight. And it's trying to grow up as a teenager, and you're still trying to feed it milk. It's like, and that was a beautiful journey that I took. The greatest learning ever for me.
And what area in business do you feel you've had to work on the most to add the greatest value?
I think for me, it's definitely the operational side. I think when I was at Specsavers, I had just a great big team. But I think for me, it's about taking these great ideas of change and dancing with the business model in finance and making that work. And I am a believer that if you get purpose right and you live and embed purpose, the financial, the success side as well will sort itself out. But you have to have that awareness of the finance side that dances alongside. And for creative founders, it's when I say to entrepreneurs today, I say, early governance is very important. And they go, no, thank you. It's like you're cutting off their arms. You know, it's like this. No, it's, early governance is important, but make it work for you, your stakeholders, your finance. What do you own? What does other people own? Especially in the world of creativity and invention right now. Go early. You don't have to make yourself a big corporate with governance, but you need to bring governance in. That's the thing I struggle with the most, but I know how important it is. You protect others, you protect yourself, and you ensure that your value is not just for today, it has the value to carry on for tomorrow. It's a very important lesson. I struggle with it because, of course, I just like to create things. It's very hard.
What have you enjoyed the least about managing fast growth?
I think the pressure of having so much to do and deciding what's important. And I think having a very clear plan, even though I've got big purpose and changes, having a clear plan and saying no to shiny new toys, because everyone loves a shiny new toy. And I work with others on this as well, and trying to stick to creating a core and making that work so you've got a very strong platform to trial new things off of. But saying no to shiny new toys, and someone saying, oh my gosh, that'd be amazing here. And then I go, yeah, that would be. And I go, yeah, core first. I've got to be known for, going back to the positioning in the network. I'm trying to establish myself. And I always like this because, niche comes from the sort of Latin to nest. And I always say that to entrepreneurs. Don't be afraid of niche. It's not small. It's nesting. It's a nestler to discover. So if you're going off shiny new things, the nest is kind of not clear. And yeah, I like new things. It keeps me energized. So that I find the hardest is saying no, but I'm getting better.
Yeah. And what do you love most about growing a small business?
Has to be the people. Yeah. Has to be the people that, and how much value this relationship between, it's not just young as in old, in age, sorry, this sage approach, and how there's such an alignment between what we can give to young entrepreneurs nowadays, not everything, but just what they need to grow. Their experience is they've just got this amazing idea. And when you see what's going on, especially in the sustainability industry, in circular economy, they've got ideas because they see the world differently. And I love that because they've taught me so much. And then just walking in and just sort of going there and working with them, do this, perhaps don't necessarily do this. This is a business canvas, actually giving them some basic tools. And they're like sponges, they're literally flying. And that has to be, the young, what we give each other. It just feels great. That's what I love, is the people I meet every day. It really is a lot of fun.
What's been the biggest mindset shift for you in your small business growth journey?
Power of the network. I must admit, when you're in a big organization, you don't realize the power of the people that you supply yourself with. And I know there's many sayings, but you become blind to it. And when I left Specsavers, I had this incredible network of optical, retail, but the power that a network and how to network, that learning, that mindset shift is, I meet people all the time now. I don't need people, but I meet people all the time. And I remember, actually, my father is amazing network. He just says, it's not a shop of people. You're always there. I know what I need in 5 years' time. He says, I meet people, I know people, I shake hands with people. And, I interviewed a friend of mine, Alan, who was one of the art directors of Harry Potter. And he says, I shake hands with people like I'm going to know them for the whole of my life. And I thought that's just beautiful. He said, because I don't need anyone. You don't need people now. You just need to know people when you need them. And I thought that's my approach to how I meet people and how I spend time in the week now. I designate time to get to know people, to be at events with no agenda at all, just to go out, be curious, meet people. That's been a massive change for me on how I spend my time and how I value a network of people.
The number one habit you think a small business owner needs to develop and maintain?
Making yourself redundant on a continual basis. I think that's very important.
Firing yourself.
Firing yourself. And I think that space is very important. I think one of the challenges of small businesses is to keep them interesting, keep them curious. And, when you're a small business, you are often really suddenly, without realizing, as I sort of said, find yourself firefighting your to-do list. And when you get to your stage, rather than going, I need somebody else to help me with this to-do list, ask yourself a different question. Why is my to-do list? What's the most reoccurring thing on my to-do list? Because the problem of your to-do list is never the cause. And actually, if you ask yourself the right question, you've got a problem somewhere else. And that's why we sort of invented the Powerball, where it is the blocks to growth. And it's on your to-do list because something's going wrong somewhere else. And I think by keeping to purpose and keeping values and looking wider at the company when you're looking at problems is a very important thing to do. And keeping vision and purpose alive for a small business is essential, because otherwise you get caught very quickly in the day-to-day running, which is important, but then you start missing what you're doing it for. You stop attracting the right people, people get bored, and we get the cave of the founder again. And so every 6 months, who am I? What am I? Who do I want to be? And even if the answer is, hey, I'm just been brilliant this last 6 months, that's an answer as well. But you're asking yourself the right questions. And for me, it's essential. I work on my own. I work with great people, but fundamentally at 5 a.m., I'm in the gym thinking, I'm the one thinking about Wyseminds. So don't be the king and queen of your own castle. You've got to kind of push yourself in and out, would be my greatest piece of advice.
Want to become the best manager you can be? Check out our Kick-Ass Manager course at growasmallbusiness.com. Do the course and add your fellow managers for no extra cost. Join the 30%. 70% of people quit their job because of their manager.
Can you talk to how you've added people to the team, some wins, mistakes, and advice for those listening?
Yeah, I mean, of course, after so much of a journey with both Specsavers and Wyseminds, I think right at the beginning, when I was opening up Specsavers here, you realize soon that the team that you have that gets you going in that very initial dynamic phase isn't the team that's going to get you to the summit. And of course, you're evolving all the time. So at the moment with Wyseminds, we're very much in a very moving, agile ecosystem of people. And how I recruit, and I've got a lot of suppliers out there, I will have first couple of meetings on, do we think the same? And actually I recruit and get people on values, because if you're taking on a supplier, let's assume they can do their job, they can do their skill. But the biggest thing for me, it's very intense at the beginning, is do we think the same? We don't have to think exactly the same in values, but how do we think about life? How do we think about things? How do we think about dealing with a crisis? And even with our suppliers, we onboard them about purpose, what we think of, what the values are, because under pressure, and there's always going to be pressure, because life's not like a beautiful flow of daffodils. There's always going to be crises. How do you deal with it? Because onboarding a supplier and onboarding an employee costs a heck of a lot of money. So if I've got to switch and change halfway through a project, I need to know at 6 months, if something's not going right, that we can have the hard conversation and not take it personally. We have to know of how we deal with conflict and how we celebrate, how we unite. That to me is an incredibly important thing. We don't have to have exactly the same values, but we have to have pretty similar lenses for which we see the world, because it's too intense otherwise. And I can't afford to lose a supplier halfway through a huge project. I just haven't got the buffer space to do that, as all small businesses haven't.
What are some things you recommend to building a sustainable and kick-ass culture to help with the growth?
Well, from a purpose-led organization, I have to start there first. Having that purpose and sharing the vision is very important. And the picture of vision, be very clear to the founder. You don't own that picture. Your job is to inspire people to be curious about that picture, and so that they join in to have the space to be the best they can be. And I started early on talking about COVID and how it really made us think about who we are and what we want to do with those values. Small businesses have a great opportunity to inspire great people to come and join. If they are clear and go, this is what we believe. And then someone goes, that's similar to what I can see myself living my best life in that company. And there's a big opportunity as a starting point to be magnetic towards those people that you want. But you've got to put you've got to say, do what you say, and having that space, keeping that space and inspiring through celebratory, keeping purpose embedded is very important. And that's why I was sort of saying about the firefighting. As soon as you're firefighting to-do lists and your board meetings and your meetings come, have you done what's happening here? Ask yourself different questions, because your job is to keep people curious in the journey of change you're making. And that's how you get the great people. And this way, we encourage sort of very project-based growth teams in our small businesses. So you start off with the purpose and you have the different people around contributing towards it. And that keeps it relevant. So moving slightly away from a very traditional hierarchy, that also keeps a real big mix of people interested and using their skills in a different way. I always remember the guy who builds a website and he looks after everything I don't know about, to do with online and stuff like that. He comes into our meetings about the development of training and online. And he says, I've never been asked that before, but I see the back office all the time. One of the most useful people in that conversation ever. So you give people exposure and stretch their values, their skills. Very important.
Tell our audience how you've handled balance.
For me personally, it's I learned the hard way. And now I am very much in a balanced life. I just believe when you're an entrepreneur, there's just life. And then there's work, there's hobbies, there's families, and how you put yourself into each of those channels. That's what I define as balance. For me, my health is very important. I'm in remission with cancer, so I'm on it all the time. I know how much being fit helped me through that, and that's something I keep very, very alive. Every morning I have a balance between meditation, health, and throughout my day as well, I have little breaks that I call high performance breaks, which let me recover, get back in, because I'm seeing 6 or 7 people a day on Zoom.
Wow.
So I need to turn up as my best self every moment.
Yeah.
So I need that break. How do I turn up thinking that person knows that they're the first person of my day? And these things are very important. And I don't make an Olympic gold medal. My start to the day, the morning routine is what I'm being asked for on that day. I don't sort of go, I must do 50 minutes of this and 50 minutes of this. I just do a balance of whatever is needed. And it works. And when it doesn't work, I've got the tools to go back into it. But healthy mind, healthy body as an entrepreneur, for sure. You have to turn up as your best self at all times.
And how much professional development have you invested in yourself?
Oh, my favorite subject. I love it. I've always got a course on the go. One of my favorite platforms is Mindvalley. I love their broad viewpoint, going back to the accessibility of education. I can do it at 4 a.m. in the morning or 9 o'clock at night. I feel inspired by their courses and their different way of looking at life. So yeah, I'm a big learning and development one. Part of my morning routine is I've got to read at least a chapter of a book or listen to a podcast. There's got to be some learning in it, whatever I've got time for. So, and that's very important because life is moving very quickly. And I believe there's not one way of growing yourself or a business. You've got to keep yourself different viewpoints, different ways to make sure you don't become fixed in your mindset. You need to have a challenge. And my favorite pastime is playing the game on a monthly basis of Challenge Harvard Business Review. I love it because you get the titles and I have my little debate with them. Am I relevant? Is this what I'm talking about with entrepreneurs? And is this what I believe? Or what else would I add to the article? Because it keeps it interesting. So,
yeah, that's
very
good.
sad. I'm a bit of a nerd.
Have you had mentors or coaches along the way?
Yeah, all the way. Life's never achieved by yourself. And I've got a long-term coach who's seen me through every crisis, every great time at Specsavers, who went on to support me during cancer and to this day. But I'm also training to be certified as a coach myself in life coach. So I'm a business coach, but not a life coach. And then you meet coaches along the way. So we coach each other. So to me, the conversations that I have with people are massively essential because in a way that's the team. That's how I gain information. Yeah. I could never think of doing it alone. And I come from a big entrepreneurial family as well. So they are, well, their life experiences are an inspiration, but, they're always a good check-in, especially when we're getting close to things like joint venture partnerships and stuff. I'll head straight to the experts, my parents. So I'll use any way or form. And I think advice is there. You can't possibly know everything.
Excuse my ignorance, but were your parents the founders of Specsavers?
That's right. So yeah,
I don't do any prep or research before I hit record. So I didn't even realize that.
Yeah, no. So Specsavers. So I'm generation 2, and we all have worked in the company. But we were from a very early age. Mary and Doug said, "This is our thing. This isn't for you. It's not your bank. It's not your life." But there was such, growing up in an entrepreneurial family, it breeds curiosity. It breeds a different way of looking at business. You get a much more holistic viewpoint of life. There's not work and life. You grow up with a lot of people walking in and out of the house. There's not really failure. It's always phrased as, it's a different phase. There's just this beautiful way of looking at things. And,
it is.
And I think that inspires you to look at things. And so naturally, we all migrated there. And, but Mary and Doug, it's not a family business. They call it a company with family values.
Yep.
And with the shared partnership, it's got 3,000 owners across the world. So it's not a hierarchy situation. But that taught me a lot in small businesses. They held on to no profit. They shared success very early on. And I think it's the only way of doing it. And, some of the women I'm working with now on sustainable companies, we're looking very early to how you can share success and share the challenge. And that collaboration, I think, is very open in young people. So it's a beautiful way of growing small businesses in a slightly safer, less risk-averse way. Of course, everything's got risk, but that shared, if you give away, you'll get a tremendous amount back. And of course, I've got the role models in that every single day. I can do nothing other than promote that way of growing. Yeah,
well, I grew up, my parents were business owners, grew a small fuel business to a medium-sized one. I had Dad on the podcast, actually. And
nice.
He retired early 2000s, mid to late 50s, and they were selling about 100 million litres a year. He was a BP distributor in country Victoria, 100 million litres a year of fuel, about 80 million top line and 30 team members. So it's all I really ever knew was watching the ups and downs of a business, and one that grew into a reasonable size one as well. So it's been in my blood from a young age.
I think it's beautiful because, you know, when you say that in terms of being in your blood, you don't see it at the time. If somebody asked me, write a list of everything your parents gave you about running businesses, but it's the way it's infused, because it is, entrepreneurship is a roller coaster, and it becomes a pattern of life. And there's the highs and lows to that in family businesses, you know, as kids as well. But, you know, there were highs to it. We always had Saturday jobs. All our friends had Saturday jobs. You know, it was always a source of, you know, of being involved, and in a healthy way. And I really enjoyed it. And I think that's sort of, as you say, it's in your blood. It's a natural thing to celebrate the small businesses, for sure.
And do you have a board of directors or advisors at Wyseminds?
We have a very small board, like 3 of us. We're very dynamic at the moment because it's still small. But the way that we want to be growing is to take on, you know, other people who want to get involved and believe in the same sort of vision as us. So at the moment, it's a very small board of 3. But we meet on a regular basis and talk about the BHAGs. We're very BHAG orientated, and look at that strategic direction coming forward. And who do we need? It's a big one. But at the moment, it's small because the ecosystem of that agile part of the indirect team is still very large. But over the next year, we're starting to bring that into having a bigger core team, which is very exciting, of course, for any small business as we move into that next wave.
Well, it's good. I mean, you talked about good governance from day one early on, so I'd be disappointed if you didn't have a board, even though, albeit a smaller one. Yeah.
It's funny. It's like, you know, very early on, as I sort of show for small business founders, is you have to offload you into your business. And that space is critical. I say, it's like you're on Camp 4 on Mount Everest. You've made the hard bit of the climb, and you're trying to summit with the same process that got you to Camp 4. And I work with them to offload stuff and put in new things in order to make them light of the summit. And one of that's governance.
Yep.
One of it has got to be financial controls, contracts, ownership, in a light-hearted way, that you don't have to kind of wheel in, you know, Uber, but you need to have that light-hearted control, because it makes people take you more seriously. You know, they turn up and you go, oh, what do you own? Oh, I don't know. Oh, yeah, help yourself. You know, you need to be seen. How are you turning up? Are you turning up? Are you taking yourself seriously? Because you can't expect other people to until you do. So governance is a big part of that.
Yeah. Well, Julie, one of our final 5 questions. What do you think is the hardest thing in growing a small business?
Definitely keeping it relevant, keeping it exciting without taking on a lot of new shiny things, keeping to the core, but keeping it curious and moving towards purpose. And the founder continually asking themselves, am I still where I should be? Big, hard thing. Founders love shiny toys.
Yeah, we sure do. Favorite business book which has helped you the most?
I think for me, I'm going to have to go Buddha and Badass with Vision. Obviously, my connection to Mind Valley, which I love, that helps me take a wide view. But from one that's really helped me with the entrepreneurs, it has to be a book I picked up recently, which is Digital Darwinism, which was the 2nd edition with Tom Goodwin. And the thing I liked about it was it places digitalization in a specific way in a business, because we all say, oh my goodness, digitalization, future and everything. And that can be very overwhelming for small businesses. But I love how he's written with getting you to question where, what for, and also about the history of innovation, because you can start to get it in perspective. If you ever want to read it, his story of electricity is really inspiring, but I'm going to leave it at that because it will inspire you to read it.
Great. Any great podcasts or online learning tools used for your own professional development?
Well, as I sort of previously said, love the Mind Valley platform, but I'm a podcast today because I use it for running. So I habit stack. So 30-minute podcast is great. And I measure my fitness by how exhausted I am when the person says, and thank you for that.
That's great. One tool you'd recommend to help grow a small business?
Well, there's certainly very many tools. I don't want to sell my own, which is the Powerball, which is alignment of key drivers, which I think is very, very important. But I think for entrepreneurs, I think the tool I would use, it's a specific tool, it's more of a process. Understand your customer journey from the customer's perspective at all stage.
Yep.
And then you can start to challenge it. Founders love to step in to the shoes of the customer. They've often started their business because they're passionate about that change. So have that customer journey mapped out, but the true customer journey about the emotions, the pains and the gains. And that to me would be the greatest tool I'd give to any founder.
Finally, my favorite question. What did you tell yourself on day one of starting out?
For me, well, first of all, I would say you're going to really enjoy this ride. And that is going to be the most important thing that keeps you going day and night, because it's going to be a very tough journey. It's a roller coaster. And what you've learned from previous life is brilliant and you can feed it in. But you have to be prepared that it's a roller coaster going through. And you have to make sure that you're really super geared up for those good times and not good times, so that you keep your eyes on the vision and the purpose, Julie Perkins. Mm-hmm. Keep your eyes on it and keep fit and well.
Great. Well, thank you very much for your time today, Julie. Really enjoyed our chat, and congratulations on the growth over the last 3 years, 1 to 4 now team members full-time, and helping a lot of female business owners out there grow with a lot less stress and less risk to get to the next level. So really appreciate your time.
Well, thank you very much for having me, Troy. And hopefully paths will cross again, especially when I'm down in Australia.
Yeah, pop down to Tasmania.
I will. Thank you.
And for our audience, we would greatly appreciate a review in iTunes or whatever platform you listen to us on. More reviews means we bubble up higher in iTunes, etc. So more business owners looking for podcasts to help with their growth will find us.